So, for those of you that haven't heard, we lost a friend, a brother in the alt football community. Josh Davis passed away on Saturday. I'm kind of I'm excited to bring the show back, but this clearly is something that took us all by surprise. Josh started with XFL News Hub back in August of 2020. You've heard him on this show doing his interviews. He wrote, when he started with us, he had his own football website, and it wasn't really going anywhere, and he wanted a chance to grow as a writer, as a football sports writer. So he reached out to me on Twitter, I think it was, and asked for a shot. And in that time, he wrote over 170 articles for XFL News Hub alone. He was part of CFL News Hub. And I remember when he started, his followers, he was, had like 50 followers or something on. I don't know how many he has now. But it grew. And I don't really. I mean, I've talked to Josh pretty much every day. We have a group meet chat and all of our guys get together and we chat and got to know Josh on a personal level. And in it, even today's news, we got all this great news about, with stuff going on with the USFL. Josh was my go-to guy at XFL News Hub. So I needed an article written. Josh was the guy that I would shoot it off to. He said, "Don't worry, boss, I got it." He's a family man, so he leaves behind his fiance and 3 young daughters. And I would reach out to him and he would be like, "Oh, I'm picking my kids up," or "We're doing this," or whatever. As soon as I get back, I'll take care of it. And I was like, "Hey, man, absolutely, family first." So he's always a family first guy. And I have to say that, the XFL News Hub team, it was heartbroken. We all love Josh. He was a great guy. It was great to see all the stories and messages that we got about Josh. We have an article on XFL News Hub that all the writers kind of put in their 2 cents of, what they thought about Josh. And it's just, I don't even know kind of what to talk about. It sucks. Mike Mitchell said it best about Josh was that he was the ultimate underdog. He was a guy that his goal was to become a football writer, and that's what he wanted to do. And he was kind of the underdog. And one of the things that was great about Josh is that that's what he liked to tell the story of the underdog, the players. And then I think that's why he liked and he loved the XFL and the CFL and fan control football and European League of Football. He was covering the ELF, the European League of Football, for CFL News Hub. And I think it was because he was an underdog, and I think Mike said it best, and he was rooting for the underdog, and he would, give opportunities for players. so many players he's touched the lives of and got to know and got to tell their story on this show. He interviewed plenty of guys that you've never heard of. And he'd be like, hey, this guy's got a real good story. You know, do you mind if I interview him? And I'm like, sure, I would love to hear it. And they've all been great stories. And it just sucks. I really kind of at a loss for words. If you want to help out the family, I know money was tight for them. I mean, with 3 kids and, funeral service and everything, there is a fundraiser page. We'll have the links. It's on Facebook, fundraiser page. I want to crush that $10,000 goal. We're already at almost $5,000. So, I asked for 2 things. One, $5, $2, whatever you got, just to help them out during this time and say a prayer. I mean, the one thing I kept going back to this whole time, everything was going on was, man, just the last couple years, I mean, I don't have to tell you, but death sucks, and you feel so helpless. I mean, like I have on my screen right now, I have our chat, and there's a picture of Josh with the chats that I was talking to him on Friday. And Friday night we went out, had a Halloween party, had a good old time, and then the next morning he's gone. And I'm a guy of faith. You guys know my story. If you don't know, I mean, I was, kind of hit rock bottom, had my come to Jesus, and I've been a Christian guy ever since. And I don't apologize for that or anything. I'm very strong in my faith, and all we can do is pray. So I just ask you guys to donate and pray for his family, pray for his kids. I know what it's like. My dad, and I've told this story before, my dad was, I was early in college. I went to Salisbury University, and my dad was, we hung out. They came to visit, and Dad had bronchitis, and a month later he was gone of cancer. And that shook me to the core. So and his kids are young. I mean, they're not, I don't even think they're in high school. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, they're not college. They're young. Because he was a young guy too. And I know the impact that your father's death has had on me. I mean, it basically defined who I am as a person today. I do this stuff. I do, XFL, News Hub, and all these things because I don't want to be stuck in a situation or a job that I don't like. I want to do something fun. And, the thing with my dad was he was always like, oh, well, I'm going to do all this fun stuff when I retire. And he never got to retire. And my personal mission is I want to retire now. And I want to do fun stuff now. And also my dad was a smoker. And then he quit for years after, but he smoked a lot. And, the funny thing is when my dad died, I started smoking and drinking because that's what stupid idiot college kids do. You know what I mean? But when I had started coming to my come to Jesus moment, I went all in and actually became a trainer, quit smoking and dedicated my life to fitness. I'm training for the Disney Marathon right now. And all of that stems from the fact that when my dad died, that impact that it had on me. And I only hope and pray for his fiance and those 3 girls especially. Those are the ones that I think about the most because I know what it's like. I just hope that this is a catalyst for great things for them to come because their dad was a good guy, a humble guy, And he cared very much about his kids because I heard about them all the time, and it was great. I mean, and so I pray for them. And the thing that's so hard to deal with right now is that, I was really hoping, I mean, Josh and I, and a lot of these guys on XFL News Hub, like we talked on messaging all the time. I mean, whether it was on my phone, I mean, I probably talked to Josh more than I talked to my own wife and kids, to be honest, because I mean, that's how much we are dedicated to XFL News Hub, CFL News Hub, and all this stuff. And I was really, and I even said this before to my wife about Josh. I was like, so I'm in Maryland and Josh is in Virginia, and DC is right in the middle between us. And I was like, I can't wait for when, the XFL comes back and DC Defenders hopefully comes back, and we get to go to a game, and I get to take him, we get to go behind the scenes and interview players and interview coaches and get that experience and be able to hang out with them in person, between the league shutting down and what going on around the world, like, I didn't get a chance. And I remember us talking when the XFL was kicking, we were like, all right, we're all going to meet up in Houston. We're going to go to the XFL championship game. We're all going to get together, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we didn't get a chance to do that. So this time, this is what I was looking forward to, and I was looking forward to, Josh having that experience too, and being able to hang out, and to not be able to do that is heartbreaking. And it's still like, and everybody that he touched throughout his life, we all miss out on that thing, that we wanted to do together. And it sucks now because, I mean, it sucks on so many levels. But, like, the spring football news has been nothing. I mean, we've had nothing going on. And it was just about to start. And that's why I had said, we're going to start doing the show starting on the 18th. We were back because new things were coming down the pipe between the USFL and the XFL. And we'll get on all to that in a little bit. That I was super excited about all that stuff. And then now, and finally, when Josh came to us, it was right after The Rock and Danny Garcia and Redbird Capital purchased the XFL. So we were never able to kind of experience turning the lights on and being full blast XFL like a lot of the other guys on XFL News Hub were able to do when the season was going on. And just the excitement and the fun and the draft and the coaches getting signed and the team names and like all this stuff that was going on made it a lot of fun for all of us. And we were just on the cusp of that. I mean, literally today, as this news breaks, and we'll get into like the USFL stuff and the cities and the logo and all this stuff, my first inkling was like, all right, well, let me send this to Josh and see if he can write something up. And it was just like, so it's gonna be tough. Like I said, there's really only two things we can do. Is one is support the family, and we ask, at least in the short term, is to if you guys can help out, donate whatever you can. I know money's tight for everybody. Let's try to knock that $10,000 goal out at the park. And happy thoughts, whatever you do. For me, it's prayers and praying for his fiance and his kids as they get through this. And now we kind of have, hopefully, they're up in heaven next to God, Josh Davis hanging out saying, hey, maybe you can make this and this happen so we get this spring league going. Because Josh was, like Mike said best, Josh was the underdog. He was trying to make a name for himself in the business, and he loved all the players and coaches that he interacted with because they were underdogs too. And the beauty of the USFL and the Fan Control Football League and the XFL is that it's giving everybody a second chance, and it's letting the underdogs have a chance to succeed, and that's kind of what Josh was all about, and I think that's why he loved these leagues so much. And special shout out to, I mean, if you want to check out the article on XFL News Hub, I mean, the XFL, thank you to them. The XFL tweeted out about Josh, and I think, you know, his family and friends appreciate those things and realized how much he meant to the community. I mean, players reached out. You know, Fan Control Football has been great. Hub Football. I mean, all these guys. We have a bunch of them here. People behind the scenes asking how they can help. It's just been it's really, you know, you just wish Josh was here to see it, to see that, hey, man, all these people loved you and all these people loved your work and respected you, and you're going to be missed. You're going to be missed in the community, and someday, we'll, you know, after, you know, we get 20 plus years of some spring football leagues kicking in, and all of our times here is done on earth. Hopefully, hopefully, Josh, we could see each other again and have a good conversation about football and the XFL and your Eagles and kids and all that good stuff. So I just pray for you guys. Again, I just ask you guys to help out with the family, say some prayers. I mean, that's all we can do. But we're all family in this when it comes to spring football and USFL and XFL, and we lost, you know, we lost a family member there. So say some prayers, help the family out. That's all we can do, and we'll be back after this break.
What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today.
All right, big news in the USFL today. The USFL and BJCC have reached a tentative MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to bring the relaunch season to Birmingham, Alabama. This was the big news over the last couple of days. So the USFL will have use of Protective Stadium for up to 40 games plus 3 playoff games from about April 15th to July 3rd, 2022. At no cost, according to the non-binding Memorandum of Understanding between Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center, BJCC, and here's the interesting part, and the National Spring Football League, Nsfl, which owns the USFL. This is according to AL.com. They're going to, you know, some of it's going to be subsidized, public-private, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff like that. That's kind of what this article talks about. And how much revenue, you know, this league could potentially bring to the city of Birmingham. That being said, that agreement with an entity called National Spring Football League, or NSFL, They own the rights to the USFL. We're not sure where Brian Woods and the Spring League are all in this, but reports are saying that $150 million from Fox is invested in this league, and they're all in. So we did a little trademark search, and we found that this actually hit the street or hit the trademark office on the 12th of October. So here are some of these are the team names that are listed under this company's trademark. There is no others, it's just these. It's fairly safe to assume that these are the cities of the USFL, SFL going forward. So you have the Memphis Showboats, Orlando Renegades, Jacksonville Bulls. Hey, Jags just won their first game. I was at Jacksonville Jaguars game. Oakland Invaders, Arizona Outlaws, Denver Gold. Matt Nagashima is going to be happy. He's a Denver guy. LA Express, Houston Gamblers, New Orleans Breakers, Birmingham Stallions. Now, it was said in the article that Birmingham is going to be one of this 8 teams, so that leaves 7 spots left. Who's going to be part of this? Tampa Bay Bandits, Michigan Panthers, Pittsburgh Maulers, Philadelphia Stars, New Jersey Generals. So when the league returns to play in April, it is for a 10-week run plus 3 weeks of playoff games. It will include 8 teams. Of course, we just said one of which is already the Birmingham Stallions. That leaves 7 other teams from the list above that need to be finalized. Some interesting notes to kind of narrow down the focus of the name of the teams. Florida has 3 teams, the Renegades, Bulls, and Bandits. Cities missing from this list include Dallas, your DC Defenders, DC team, Seattle, New York, even though you have New Jersey, and St. Louis. Those locations are part of the XFL 2.0 era that they had teams. Now, Fox Sports, which owns the league and it's its official broadcast partner, has reportedly committed $150 million over 3 years, so that's $50 million a year, to its new spring football venture. Interesting that they did not touch Seattle or St. Louis, 2 of the XFL's best franchise areas. They didn't touch New York, but New Jersey, okay. Florida, the XFL could be in Orlando. They could move to Jacksonville. Jacksonville Stadium is great. I would love to see USFL have a Jacksonville team. That would be kind of cool. LA is LA. What are you going to do about that? Houston Gamblers, you're going to have a place in Houston. Houston Roughnecks, they were a great team too. Interesting things, what's coming on there. Those are going to be your team names and your cities. Oakland Invaders, California. Maybe we could use them, but no, there's no San Diego in that list either. Also, what dropped the day before, and Matt Lyons had this one, is that the USFL updated their merchandise shop to the chagrin of a lot of football fans. Because if you take a look, that the merch is kind of cheap and weak. Basically, they're using Shopify. I think that's it. That's your shirt. You're going to pay for that shirt? Kind of like meh. Reed from Markcast, I believe, said that, this is their site. It's just starting in the spring, and all they have is the merch shop. And their merch is basically the same merch shop that the Markcast uses, I believe. I would get some stuff. I kind of like this hoodie, but the gear seems kind of weak. We'll see if more products are available or they'll clean this up. I'm not sure this was ready for prime time at the time it came out, but there you have it, the USFL. You have your cities. There's no logos. There is a USFL logo that we were able to find also in the trademark stuff. Let me pull that up. The USFL logo. I got this one. Let's see here. It was a really tiny logo, but you can, if you shrink it down, this is kind of what the USFL logo looks like. as well. It's got the eagle with the football. This was all part of that trademark filing that we uncovered on XFL News Hub. So what do you think? What do you think of the cities? What do you think of the team names? Are you excited about the USFL? Are you excited? Are you going to have a team in your area? I mean, people were talking about San Antonio was a missed opportunity. St. Louis, Seattle. I mean, is the XFL potentially already got their claws? I mean, you know these guys talk. This world is small when it comes to these football leagues. Do you think that these guys have already talked and they already know, like, hey, they're going here, except for Houston? The Houston is the only one. Tampa, whatever. It's the Houston part. It's kind of interesting. We'll have to find out. The USFL has made its move. Now, remember, this Birmingham, Alabama, this is just a memorandum of understanding. This isn't any kind of signed agreement. And broskies, it is October 18th, 2021. You have a lot to turn around in a short period of time, but they've done this before with the Spring League, so I don't think it'll be a big issue. Whether they have draft, who knows how this kind of thing. It's not going to be as big hoopla as the XFL when the XFL relaunched. But it's certainly great to see that football players will have an opportunity starting in April, probably before that. You figure March they'll start training camps. So we got October, all right, let's say November, December, January, February, March. I mean, they basically got 5 months to get things in gear and ready to go. But this seems like a great agreement for not only the city of Birmingham, Alabama, but for the USFL. And that means trip to Birmingham for yours truly. Definitely have to go out to check out some games. I don't think it's too far from here. We'll have to come and check it out. Maybe hang out with some of you guys there in Birmingham to check out a USFL game. Fan Control Football has got some great news, and this all helps for the XFL as well. So heading into its second season, Fan Control Football has signed a broadcast deal with NBC Universal subsidiary NBCLX that will see the league's action air across linear broadcast, TV cable channels, and Peacock. This is something that we thought the XFL might be doing, is maybe something with NBC and Peacock. But FCF games will be broadcast on Twitch as well, like they did during their inaugural season. Fan Control Football is a highly engaging and innovative experience, what makes it a great addition to the NBCLX content portfolio and a great match for our audience, says Meredith McGinn, NBC Universal Local's EVP of DigiNet and Original Production. In a statement, FCF will continue producing the games while NBCLX has committed to creating additional content as well. Interesting. The league is also growing from 4 to 8 teams as well. Are they going to be able to find this part is going to be interesting too, because a lot of part of their business model has to do with investors and, celebrities that are involved with these teams. In an interview with FCF CEO and co-founder Sohrab Faroudi, said conversations with prospective media partners began before the league's first year ended in March. That's pretty good. They saw the product. They were like, oh man, this is really cool, real, and it's cool. That's what's going to happen there. So NBC Universal Local TV streaming networks generally targets 18 to 45 and has TV presence in over 40 markets. FCF, which is building a football league around video game mechanics and interactive app, has emerged alongside tech buzzwords like NFTs and metaverses. I already said that the league is looking into how those trends might help deepen the connection to fans, but he's quickly to separate his product from those solely focused on digital experiences. Quote, what we're doing is rooted in the physical world. Everybody seems to be focused on what's happening in the digital world, and it's not like 100% of the focus is there. And my thought is I don't see the physical world going away anytime soon. So what we really want to do is take the best of both. Hey, NFTs would be a fantastic and great idea for something for Fan Control Football to do, to get involved with. But this is another sign. USFL having a good deal with Fox. Fan Control Football now with NBC. Football content, these players want it. The question is, where does the XFL fit in all of this? So you might have seen these pictures out there. Danny Garcia and The Rock have been tweeting or Instagramming really lately about XFL talk. We hadn't heard from a long time from them about anything XFL related. Then all of a sudden we saw Danny Garcia with an Instagram story saying at the go home look for day 3 dinner with my XFL Redbird Capital partners. Then The Rock a week or so ago was flying out to New York to meet up and talk XFL with stuff. And Danny Garcia was coming back. And this was for some October 4th ownership update. If you see the image, the last image, it says ownership update. One of the things that fans were talking about is, and this is cleverly put there is, if you see the picture, if you're on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, you can see the image of the top where it says ownership update. And remember, we talked about, now this could just be ownership, Redbird, Danny, and The Rock. This could be ownership. We heard in an interview a while back, I forget the guy's name, from Redbird Capital, where they were looking at potentially individual investors into teams. So we don't know what's all going on here. But if you look, the one that's covering, clearly purposeful, we know Danny Garcia by now, is another binder, and it kind of cuts off at the top. And at first, somebody had mentioned that was the NFL's logo. And I was like, no, that's not. But if you look closer, I saw a image that was blown up, and actually, I believe that is the top crest part of the NFL's logo. So what is going on behind there is anybody's guess. But it's been some interesting tweets coming from Danny Garcia and The Rock, and the question is it potential partnership with the NFL? Which I don't see what the benefit to the NFL and XFL partnership would be. But it is clearly, there is no doubt in my mind that was specifically put that way to get us super nerds all excited about that. So we'll have to find out. What are your thoughts? Leave us a comment. I mean, do you think it's even the NFL logo? What do you think a partnership between the XFL and NFL could actually bring? I don't really see what the NFL would want with the XFL. Who knows? Maybe there's the NFL logo and CFL and NCAA logo behind that thing, for all we know. Some interesting things that are coming about, but there's definitely movement, and things are starting to pop when it comes to the XFL. The big news this week: Jeffrey Pollock departs the XFL as president and CEO. So Ben Fisher from Sports Business Journal reports the XFL is parting ways with league president and CEO Jeffrey Pollock, effective immediately. Sources close to the situation confirm that Pollock's departure has been in the works for quite some time now. This is according to our man Mike Mitchell. It's been in the works for a long time now. At least I've been hearing a couple months, perhaps. XFL owners Redbird Capital Partners have been in talks with a potential replacement for Jeffrey Pollock for several weeks now. They have narrowed down their list of candidates, and it's believed the XFL ownership group has zeroed in on a specific candidate. Sources confirm that an announcement should be coming soon on Pollock's replacement. We are going to get our first official XFL announcement coming here soon. I maybe even say this week. People closely associated with the situation believe that Redbird Capital Partners will replace Jeffrey Pollock with someone who holds a different title than he did as president and CEO. The new hire is expected to act as more of a football boss who oversees those aspects of the league. So what's next for the XFL? We don't know what the league rollout date is. Of course, we know Danny and The Rock have been teasing potential upcoming news in their social media channels, and they were in New York Monday ironing out the last deals. I have a feeling that they are basically setting up for what's to come. Everything's been finalized. I think things are being created behind the scenes, and I think things are a go. Jeffrey Pollock's impact on the XFL has been huge. He's been with the league since 2019. He also was he basically was the business side of things. Oliver Luck was the football side of things. Jeffrey brought in the team presidents, the ticket sales people, all of those people. He led that piece for it. Basically, he reported to Vince McMahon, and did his thing. Oliver Luck did his thing and reported to Vince McMahon, and that's basically how the structure of the XFL worked. And it was very successful. Jeffrey Pollock was part of that helped with the sale of the XFL, and that was a huge undertaking with a skeleton crew to be able to pull off, where they've got Redbird Capital, Danny Garcia, and The Rock purchasing the XFL. Basically, and I would assume from the information that they got on the sale of the potential bankruptcy sale of the XFL, I think that gave Fox and NBC kind of an idea of, well, at least Fox said, hey, well, potentially we might not want to buy the XFL and kind of restart that. Maybe it would be better for us to use a different brand, the USFL, and kind of start down our own path in that way, and take a little different approach than potentially what the XFL wanted to do. And that's what we've seen them doing. But they didn't get that idea if it wasn't for the success of the XFL and the success of the bankruptcy filing to show people what's really going on. So with Jeffrey Pollock out, then the question is, who is to come in for them? So Jeffrey Pollock, in my view, did a great job with the XFL. And it's a shame to see him go, but sometimes when these leagues or these companies will buy something up, they tend to want to bring in their own people. And it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. Is Jeffrey Pollock going to pop up for the USFL, or is he more likely just going to take a break? I mean, dude's been working pretty hard since 2019. Maybe it's time to take a little break, but I would certainly say that I would be surprised to see Jeffrey Pollock in some form, involved in some sports thing here in the near future. Now, the question is, who is his pseudo replacement going to be? Who's the guy, which is what everybody's wondering, that's going to run the XFL? Well, our own Mike Mitchell might have an idea about that. So Mike Mitchell put out 3 potential candidates to run the league's operation. With Jeffrey Pollock no longer president and CEO of the XFL, according to sources, we all know the situation that Jeffrey Pollock is out. However, there are remnants of the original XFL staff still there working. New York Guardians president Janet Dutch is currently the league's chief marketing officer by large, and there's still a lot of players that Jeffrey brought in that are still helping out with the current XFL, and who knows where what their role will be. I'm hearing that they seem to be happy with them, and they will continue to stay. It sounds like, from what we're hearing, that it was kind of a mutual thing between Pollock and the XFL. It wasn't like they hated each other or whatever. It was just kind of like different philosophies and moving in a different direction. And this happens all the time with mergers. 95% of the time is that they kind of bring in their own people and they have their own vision, and the rest is history. So the question is, who would the XFL bring in as their chief football officer or whatever? Mike Mitchell goes into the detour about the CFL, and that put things on hold, and they were working with the CFL, seeing if they could do something, and that just kind of didn't work out. A lot of people in the CFL weren't really interested in doing anything with the XFL. I could kind of understand that in some respects. In some respects, I cannot. And they just kind of decided to part ways, and now the XFL is back and kind of focusing on their own business aspect. And so here are 3 names Mike Mitchell has on his list, and this is not just him picking it out of a hat. This is him with research, talking to people. The first up is former Houston Texans GM, Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Rick Smith. And when you heard the term before, he checks all the boxes. That's precisely the resume the former player, coach, executive, general manager Rick Smith has. Smith has even served on the NFL's competition committee, Again, another thing to a notch on the belt, because we know how the XFL has kind of changed things around. He's a former safety and team captain at Purdue, transitions into coaching when his playing days were done, quickly moved from coaching in college ranks at his alma mater to joining the NFL in Denver. Smith went on to win 2 Super Bowl rings as an assistant of coaching defensive backs for the Broncos from 96 and 99. In 2000, he transitioned into Denver's personnel department and became the team's director of pro personnel, position he held with the Broncos through the 2005 season. 2006, he became the youngest general manager in the NFL at the age of 36 when the Houston Texans appointed him the job. Smith served in that role through the 2017 seasons, after which he left to be with his wife, Tiffany, who had been diagnosed with breast cancer. Unfortunately, Tiffany Avery Smith, Rick's wife of 17 years, passed away in 2019. She was only 49 years old. Sad situation, man. That's not too long ago. In 12 seasons as the Texans GM, Smith drafted and acquired some of the franchise's greatest players, notable guys: J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Arian Foster, DeMarco Ryans, Will Fuller, Javion Clowney, A.J. Boy, Mario Williams, Lamar Miller, among others, in totals under Smith's watch. The Texans had 39 Pro Bowl players. Under Smith's leadership, Houston captured 4 AFC South Division titles. He has not been employed by an NFL team since, surprisingly, with that resume, though he has interviewed with jobs with Atlanta, Denver, Jacksonville, and Detroit. Why no one would pick him up, I have no idea. He has a great reputation as a person and as an evaluator of talent. Being in charge of the head of football ops for the entire XFL would be a huge step for Smith in his football journey. There have been many and will be many who shy away from assuming a role at XFL's de facto CFO with the challenges, but very few people there have the background or character that Rick Smith has. He can relate to players, coaches, scouts, execs, because he walked in their shoes. All of them will Rick Smith's next step be in the XFL. The other name out there, former NFL general manager and executive Scott Pioli. He was actually executive of the year, has nearly 3 decades of experience working in the NFL, working with 6 different NFL franchises in multiple positions. He was Belichick's right-hand man in New England, getting to 5 Super Bowls and winning 3 of them. His resume and achievements speak for themselves, and while there's certainly a strong enough qualification to consider for the top football role in the XFL, Pioli's unheralded work in other areas makes him a strong candidate to be a spokesperson and frontman for the leagues. Last couple years, most notably, Pioli, a Northeast native, has worked as a TV analyst for various outlets, including the NFL Network, and offered his expertise in media, but behind the scenes, he has worked very hard towards advocating and advancing diversity and equality. Pioli has been a featured speaker and panelist for private companies and at numerous conferences, including the NFL's Women Career Development, NHL's Advanced Equity Summit, Center on Leadership and Ethics at Duke University's Business School of Business, among others. So he is NCAA honored Scott Pioli as the 2019 Champion of Diversity and Inclusion for his efforts as an advocate for equality in sports. He mentors minority coaching candidates, scouts, executives, and sponsors, and provides grants for educational and professional development in football and athletics through multiple endowments for women and HBCU graduates. It's no secret that the XFL ownership group with Danny Garcia and Dwayne Johnson front and center plan on building a league of culture. That's been their mission statement since then, and he would be definitely a guy that would fit that bill as well. We'll see about him. He would be a good candidate. The last one, former Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres president Russ Brandon. Although nothing has been finalized, there have been rumblings in the last couple days that Jerry Cardinelli and Redbird Capital Partners may be leaning towards hiring the former Buffalo Bills president and GM Russ Brandon to assume the role as head of the XFL's football leadership. Okay. The former Bills and Sabres president has been serving as an advisor to Redbird Capital on XFL matters since late 2020. Some close to the situation feel that Redbird may be leaning towards hiring a football ops exec in a hybrid role similar to a commissioner, but with less authority. Of course, Brandon would fit that role. He has been in the loop on league matters for a while now in Redbird's ear. One of the interesting elements that Russ Brandon has brought on as an advisor before the XFL search for a CFO began late last year, presumably with Brandon helping to assist in that search. It may end up being him taking the job for himself. I don't know about that. And Brandon, the XFL, would be hiring someone who could serve dual executive roles and business and football side. Brandon has certainly a unique journey as a sports executive. The East Syracuse native's career started in baseball in the minor leagues before winning a championship in the front office for the Florida Marlins. He then transitioned to the Buffalo Bills, spent 20 years initially running their business and marketing department for then-owner Ralph Wilson. Brandon was instrumental at the time in keeping the Bills in Buffalo by reaching a luxury seating threshold so that the team could remain in place that they started in 1960, even though they're talking about potentially Buffalo leaving again. His success helped him rise the ranks in Buffalo, and he eventually assumed the duties of CEO, president, and eventually general manager for 3 seasons with the Buffalo Bills. When Ralph Wilson passed in 2014, Brandon conducted the search for a new owner, and it led to the Pegula family paying $1.4 billion for the franchise. Once Pegulas took control, Brandon was given additional duties as president of the Sabres and the family's other properties in Pegula Sports and Entertainment. Now, would he be the wrong fit? So after being with the Bills for 2 decades, Brandon announced his resignation on May 1st, 2018. However, Russ Brandon's departure from PSE was not without controversy. A report released by Buffalo News shed some different light on Brandon's resignation. According to the report, 2 sources told Buffalo News that Brandon was stepping down because he had been subject to an internal investigation regarding workplace behavior and allegations of inappropriate relationships with female employees. That's not a female employee, that isn't female employees. Brandon emphatically denied the allegations. Brandon stated that he was always planning to step down after 20 years with the Bills franchise in a statement to the press, and that his resignation had nothing to do with the investigation. Brandon also stated that he put off resigning for a full year to fulfill his duties to the Sabres and Bills before departing. Tim Graham of Buffalo News reported that Bills and Sabres co-owner Kim Pegula informed Brandon on Friday that an internal investigation had been conducted regarding allegations of inappropriate relationships with female employees. Per Graham, Brandon denied any such relationships when confronted by Kim Pegula. The internal investigation showed, according to Graham, that Brandon was, quote, was deceitful about that and other job-related issues that were uncovered, close quote. The NFL at the time released a statement saying that they were satisfied with the Bills' investigation. There was no further action by the league. The NFL statement was supposed to clear the air on the matter, but the vagueness of the message left many feeling cynical. Since the controversy, Russ Brandon has not worked for any other sports team. Perhaps that's because of his own personal career choice, but the way things ended in Buffalo and his time away has led some to believe otherwise. Brandon had his detractors when he was in the NFL, especially as it pertained to the Bills' results on the field, but the allegations off the field could be a problem for the XFL's public relation if they hire Brandon in a prominent position. It runs in contrast to what an owner like Danny Garcia stands for. Of course, Mike Mitchell is only raising the issue because sources told him that Brandon was one of the candidates that Rambird had zeroed in, but there's no doubt that he has a respectable work resume for his business track record in Buffalo, but the hire could end up backfiring on the league. Those are the 3 names that Mike Mitchell has put out there. You have, it's either Rick Smith, it's Scott Pioli, or Russ Brandon. And I'm actually I'm gonna side with Mike here. It feels like potentially my guess that Russ Brandon might be the guy. I have a problem with the guy that was brought in to potentially help pick a successor, and then, hey, why don't you just pick me? It's very Triple H of him. But I don't know that for certain, and I don't know Russ Brandon, and I don't know any of the background. And remember, the XFL is all about second chances. The feel-good story, the one that works, the one that checks all of the boxes for me, is Rick Smith, without a doubt. I mean, the guy left to be with his ailing wife, successful career. I mean, the Buffalo Bills weren't very good in that time period that he was there. However, the Houston Texans were. I mean, look at all those players that he was part of. The Texans were a great franchise. And honestly, ever since he's left, they've kind of been in a free fall ever since he has been gone. He would be my pick. He checks all the boxes. Former player, coach, executive, general manager, worked up his way. NFL competition committee. Again, he's a black man. There gets you the diversity. There's not a lot of diversity in the NFL. Gets criticized for that, and I think something like bringing him in, especially with that feel-good story about him leaving to be with his wife. Unfortunately, his wife passing away, but now he gets a chance to do something new and exciting. I think the media would be excited about that. We would be excited about that to bring him on board. A lot of people liked Oliver Luck. A lot of people like Jeffrey Pollock, and now that they're not going to be part of the league, there's really nobody left. And that league, 2020, the XFL, was successful. It was doing great. So they're going to bring in somebody. Everybody was like, Oliver Luck was a great hire. I think Rick Smith would be my number one choice. Number two would be Scott Pioli. Again, is his success due to Bill Belichick and his rings, or is it due to Tom Brady? I'll just throw that out there for all you. I mean, Brady did win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. I got to see Belichick win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady to be convinced. But right now, is it Brady was it Brady or Belichick when it comes to that story? But still, Scott Pioli has the executive background. I mean, success in the NFL. Mainly, my biggest thing for Scott Pioli is the diversity stuff that he's working on. And the one thing that Oliver Luck was out constantly promoting the league, a guy like Scott Pioli could promote the heck out of the XFL. He would be my clear second choice in the matter because I think he would be able to, with his business connections and speaking connections, he would be a great ambassador to the league. I think Rick Smith would also be a great ambassador to the league. I mean, if I wanted to put, I don't know Rick Smith, but I do know Scott Pioli's work on the NFL Network, and he's great. He would be a great guy to pump that league out, and he's got the background, 5-time NFL Executive of the Year. The guy knows how to build a great organization, a cultured organization. I would not have a problem with Scott Pioli either. I mean, really, for me, Mike Smith is 1A, and Scott Pioli is like 1B. Though I would be happy with either of them, but they're very close. I think they both bring a lot to the table. Russ Brandon, I mean, the problem is, and in the current light, we've seen with Chucky getting fired in Las Vegas, that unfortunately, and I'm all for second chances, and there's nothing wrong with, you know what I mean? Like, people make mistakes, but he said he didn't make a mistake. We don't know what the situation is. I will say that if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's latest book, and I'm a huge fan of Malcolm Gladwell, and they talk about women, typically, statistically speaking, when typically women do not lie when it comes to things that happen to them. Then this is just the data proving that it's like 95% of the time, it's not something that's made up. That's from Malcolm Gladwell's book. I didn't write it. I just thought it was an interesting thing in his latest book. I forget what the title is, but it came out in the last like two or 3 years or something like that. But I don't know the full story, and I don't know Russ Brandon. The problem with him is, number one, is that piece, especially in this climate, is going to be a big talking point for him as he comes out. And Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres, I mean, what did they do? What have they done as far as, I mean, you're talking about Scott Pioli, legendary Bill Belichick, New England Patriots, home run. On NFL Network, home run. Rick Smith, great background, built a winning franchise, cut his career short to be with his family at a time of crisis. Now is getting a second chance to run the XFL with Danny Garcia and The Rock. Again, home run story. Russ Brandon, Buffalo Bills, good old boy network, potentially feel to it. I don't know. But Redbird Capital brought him in. Clearly, I would assume they've done their due diligence, and I would assume Danny and The Rock have done their due diligence when it comes to Russ Brandon. I don't know the guy. I would love if he became the person to just come on the show and just kind of just let it out. I mean, he could be great for all I know. I'm just based on paper and not knowing any of them personally. I would say that I like the first two. Russ Brandon is the second, the other pick. But like Mike Mitchell is saying, I think he's prepping us for that. The guy is probably going to be Russ Brandon. We'll see how he comes out. What The Rock and Danny Garcia say about him if he is selected to be the guy. What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm going Rick Smith, Scott Pioli is right up there. I'm like either one of those are home run hitters, and we got a great story, and I think guys can run the league successfully. To me, Russ Brandon feels just like another suit. I mean, Oliver Luck had, all of the diversity with the NFL Europe, and his son was a famous quarterback, and he was a quarterback in the NFL, and he was a lawyer. Russ Brandon doesn't kind of fill those things for me there. And I think, too, in my opinion, I think Redbird Capital they're just looking to build it up and get out. So this guy wouldn't necessarily be the final straw, but maybe just to get the league off the ground and things rolling before I think eventually Redbird Capital pulls out and then the league just kind of runs on its own. That's what I think the long-term vision. I don't think Redbird Capital is in the XFL for 10 years. I don't even think Redbird Capital is in the XFL for 5. I think that would be as long as they go. So what do you think? Leave us a message in the comments. Who is your pick? Or maybe there's somebody else we're missing. Maybe you're going to pick Tim Tebow. You want him to run the league, or some of you guys will say. So let us know in the comments, but it's going to be very interesting, and I really, truly believe that we're going to get one of these candidates before the end of the month is out. All right, my friends, we'll take a commercial break, and we'll be right back with more of your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
Here's what you missed last week on the Markcast. Big news, but not CFL news. We're talking XFL news, USFL news. What happened?
It's taken the world by storm. Jeffrey Pollock, our fearless leader in chief, CEO and president of XFL, stepping down. We're talking through all that, immediate reactions. And then we have all the stuff with the USFL setting up the bubble, moving to Birmingham, Alabama. So we got feet on the ground there. The big article that's circulating. Dylan Smith.
These are well-to-do investors too that we understand that they're speaking with. From what we understand, these are, it's private venture, so it's going to be well funded.
And then we are talking CFL Week 11. We have a big interviews coming up. We're talking with Dave Campbell, formerly our team, my team, the Edmonton Elks. Dave is coming on to talk through the quarterback dilemma that is going on with Trevor Harris.
It's partly an indictment on his play, but it's like, wow, does that mean you're done with me?
We have Scott Radley with Hamilton Spectator and radio fame coming on to talk Ticats, the Argonauts attendance problems, everything else that way.
2 in a row now on the last play of the game that they could have and probably should have won. But as someone pointed out to me a long time ago, in the standings they have W and L. They don't have a woulda, shoulda, coulda column, which the Ticats could be leading in right now.
And then I am traveling north with my wife to go see America's CFL team, the BC Lions, live in person. And we're talking with Gemma Carson-Smith all about, Lions coming off the bye week, what they're going to be doing, sans Lucky Whitehead, to face the Calgary Stampeders this weekend.
It's an exciting time for the team. I think people are intrigued for the first time in a long time.
It's very exciting. We are a well-rounded show this weekend. We have all your CFL, we have all your XFL, and then we have all USFL. So please like and subscribe, and we have our giveaway too.
Also, you've noticed the name of the episode. What's going on with Cody?
Is Cody going to be wearing the white hat or the black hat when he comes back from his bye week? Is Cody Fajardo the man in black?
We'll see if he's a heel or a face. The Markcast is available wherever you download podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google. It's all over the place. It's also on XFL News Hub and YouTube.
All right, we are back, my friends. Let's get some social media stuff. I got my dog Finn, but he's not going to come on to the show until the XFL makes an official announcement. We'll my dog Finn return. You see how big he's gotten since he's been around there. Let's get to some social media stuff. What's up, my friends in the chat room? We got Rhino in there, Kuda, Man, Richard Humphrey. Going to miss his articles. He was the best. RIP. Going to miss Josh Davis. Yes, us too. Chris says Jesus is the only way to the Father, definitely not the Pope. Okay. Paladin Demo checking in. What's up, Daniel? Says RIP. Josh, condolences. Yeah, it's been tough couple days for us here. We left a link in the show notes again if you want to donate any of your time again and prayers out there for real. Let's get to some social media stuff, shall we, my friends? Real quick, kind of threw this show together because it wasn't exactly how it was going to go. About the potential USFL team names and cities, 15 in total. Danny says, why doesn't St. Louis get one for? I think it's because the XFL has stamped that part out and it's their spot. David says, XFL and USFL just need to get over it and merge it into two division. Why have competing leagues that will just end on another fold of both leagues again? That's a good point. Brett says, I don't even think St. Louis fans watch football unless their team is playing, said to be honest. Jim says, all you people commenting, these are the original ones from back when they started the league in the 1980s. I don't think so. Mike says, no St. Louis team, I'm out. Dustin, no Minnesota teams. How sad. Dwayne, no San Antonio, I'm out. I know San Antonio, St. Louis. Paul says, looks like San Antonio is getting screwed by spring football again. All interesting takes on there. Of course, we've got the logo. America Guy 1776 talking about the USFL logo. Love it. Wish they had a team in San Antonio. I mean, that's my thing with all of this, my friends. That was the biggest tell for me when it comes to these names out there. You know they're all connected. You know all these guys know each other and they talk clearly. I wonder if San Antonio, St. Louis, Seattle, D.C., all those areas are carved out except for Houston. That's the only interesting part. But the Houston Gamblers is such a big one that they kind of couldn't not do it there. And competing spring leagues is not going to be helpful. But they could merge. The three of them could play, and then eventually they merge. You don't want them to compete against players. I agree that it's kind of a pain, and it's not good. I would wish it was just the XFL, but clearly, like one of these is going to leave standing. Like something is going to happen. Maybe it's just going to be fan control football. That's going to be it. But fan control football is different because it's kind of like arena football. It's not like big stadium, 80,000 people football, but maybe it could one day be. We will find out. Let's get into some more of your social media stuff. About the big changes coming to... So Front Office Sports put this out there. Major League Baseball is in talks to launch a streaming service that would enable fans to watch hometown games without a cable subscription. From the New York Post, the service could launch as soon as 2023 and see the NBA and NHL join partnerships as well. At Hunter's Take says, or even watch NHL, NBA, and MLB on HBO Max. That's true. But this is the thing with the streaming services and cable. Like, cable is done. And now this move, to me, this move is a monster move that could change the dynamic. And where does this place the XFL in this landscape as it's basically unfolding before our eyes? So appreciate that. Hunter's Take 1. Posy_Jeff. He said that I left out Oklahoma Outlaws, Washington Federals, San Antonio Gunslingers. None of these were mentioned in the trademark. And he said, is the NFL affiliated with the Nsfl? No, it is not. Reed from XFL Markcast did a check on the address, and the address is Fox Sports address or Fox address in California. So it has nothing to do with the NFL. It is all Fox. At Devenzel Vancers SR, he said, I don't know how you don't St. Louis or San Antonio or even San Diego, but I guess we will see. Again, that is my take too. Could this be a sign that Houston is out for the XFL, that the Roughnecks, let's just have fun with this for a second. I know my Canadian friends get pissed at me when I do this, but I'm just purely speculating. You see it all the time when you watch football and stuff, football talk shows. You speculate all the time. Let me throw this one out here and see if I'm correct. Let's say that both sides have discussed because they don't want to compete with each other. No one wants to go head to head in markets against each other. So what if the LA Wildcats are now in San Diego? The Houston Roughnecks are now in San Antonio, which I don't have a problem. I wonder if they've got they were looking at we know they were looking at San Antonio as soon as the league season ended. Orlando Renegades and Tampa Bay Bandits and Jacksonville Bulls, all of those are in play, and that's because they want to see potentially where the XFL winds up. The XFL is the XFL going to stay in Tampa, or the XFL going to move their Vipers to Orlando? And I think this kind of gives them leeway. If and here's where I think it's a slam dunk that the XFL is moving. It will be depending on which of these teams name. If I'm right, if the USFL goes with Jacksonville, which I think is a great spot for football. I mean, the stadium is great. If it's something like the Jacksonville Bulls, then I think they're out, because you can't use the Orlando Renegades. That's why I wonder if that's a red herring, where actually it's going to be the Orlando Renegades is not going to be anything, and it's going to be the Orlando Vipers are going to move there, and then the USFL will have a pick between the Bulls and the Tampa Bay Bandits. And that's where you're going to have. So in the XFL world, you have LA Wildcats move to San Diego, which I think would be a great move. Houston Roughnecks move, because they were playing in a college stadium, move to San Antonio and get a good deal in San Antonio. The Vipers move to Orlando, which will be cool. And then and then you have the New York Guardians and the New Jersey Generals play wherever, and then the rest is history. So it could be very telling of what these cities have. And then I'll even piss people off. Then you have Toronto Argonauts of the XFL, and then a team in Mexico, and the XFL has 10 teams. That just pissed a lot of people off, but they're just having some fun. I don't think so. I don't know what's going on with that. There was a rumor that maybe the Argos would leave. I mean, they just had a game, the Argonauts were there at 6,700 people there at the stadium, but it was a rainy day, and everything that's going on with the CFL. Even though it's great, I like watching the CFL, and we got CFL News Hub. Check it out. But just throwing that out there, it'd be interesting. So where these names could potentially play into where the XFL teams might be headed. So San Antonio, San Diego, St. Louis fan, have no fear. I have a feeling an XFL team might be coming to your town. We'll hang out there. On the potential candidates, Hindsight, 2020_Hindsight says, tremendous article by Mike Mitchell. That's a no from me on Pioli and Brandon. So he's got no on Pioli and Brandon. So he's a Smith guy. I have no problem with Smith. I have no problem with Pioli. Brandon, I kind of have a little problem with there. But again, I don't know the guy, and I would love for him to come on and talk about whatever he wanted to talk about and get to know him and see what he is. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But just on paper, I'm kind of like, meh. So let's get into a phone call, shall we?
Hi, this is Richard Bell on Twitter, Richard O for real. I just got to say I missed the show. I'm glad you're back. I'm sorry about the passing of Josh Davis. I really love all the stories and article he wrote. He will be missed. And number two, Danny needs to stop posting little things. Just come out with news and tell them what they're going to do with the league. This is getting old. And then, I mean, you got rid of the CEO too. Come on now, tell us what's really going on. Or they still thinking about doing a stupid merger, what they really don't need to do. And the USFL is already making a move, and they haven't even started training camp. What's up with that? Thank you.
All right, Richard checking in. Yes, appreciate the kind words about Josh Davis. So with the XFL and the CFL, that was basically the CFL ownership groups just really didn't want to have anything. There was a handful of those in the groups from what we're hearing that didn't want to have anything to do with the XFL. That's where that came to. And they based on Mike Mitchell's reporting, the XFL wasn't really planning on doing anything in 2022 anyways, so this was a good idea just to kind of float it out there and kind of see what happens, and they just kind of did that. There was really no intention until 2023 anyways. Now we got 2023. Things are on the horizon for 2023. You know, the Jeffrey Pollock thing and not really saying anything. I think a lot of it has to do with the philosophy is, number one, we need to have a TV deal in place first. And number two, we're not really paying and we're not really turning the lights on yet. And when we turn the lights on, everybody will get excited. Right now you have the NFL season rip-roaring. I mean, the games have been great. My Baltimore Ravens have looked great. It's been a lot of fun watching the games. I mean, even Jacksonville's game that I went to and Jacksonville's game that I watched this past Sunday live from London was all great. The USFL, they don't really need a big runway. They've done this before with the Spring League. I'm sure they have guys in there. I don't know. We don't know the status of Brian Woods. What we've heard was that he was always involved. He's been involved in this. So if he's in some form or fashion, will they bring in Fox bring in other guys, heavy hitters from the XFL behind the scenes? We just don't know. So we'll just kind of have to play all that by ear and see what happens. But I appreciate the phone call. And yes, I am glad to be back. We are back every Monday from here on out, my friends. We're going to be talking fan control football, USFL, and we're going to talk about, of course, the XFL is the main feast de resistance. And we'll see where things head. And there, on to the chat, Gabriel says, go Renegades. Yusef says, XFL shop is better for merchandise. Yes. Jose says, where San Antonio? I think you have my take there. I think the XFL might wind up in San Antonio. Palin Denville, finally the groundwork is happening. I believe so. I believe we'll get our first official announcement from the XFL, and it's go time. I think The Rock and Danny Garcia wanted to wrap up a lot of things. I think they took off the month of August. You know, Danny Garcia was posting that she was like, I don't know, some farm somewhere. It's probably out in the middle of nowhere. You know, wrapping things up. You got Black Adam coming out. The trailer looks cool. The Rock's music video, his rap video, that's certainly a nice hype-sounding football thing. When I heard it, I was like, oh, could this be a sign? Also, we'll see what's going on with there. So there's a lot of stuff, I think, coming down the pike, and we're all in. We have a site set for at least covering the USFL here in the spring, and you got all your coverage about CFL is on CFL News Hub as well. Paladin says, don't know of the candidates, to be fair. I've been busy with family. Oh, that's good. Denzel says, go Battlehawks. He says, rip Josh. He just followed me on Facebook. Twitter. Yeah, I mean, it's, that's a tough one for us here. It's just tough all around. So if anything you can do to support, remember, you can hit that fundraising goal. Let's see here. How we doing? Reloading the fundraising page just to help his family out with funeral expenses. Like I've said, 3 kids. Oh, cool. He's already raised some money during this podcast. Appreciate everybody for taking the time and doing that and helping out his family as well. That is great for you guys. Yeah, it's been a tough week, and it's so enjoyable, and the fact that he's not going to be here to enjoy it just really kind of is a tough pill for all of us to swallow there. But I appreciate you guys checking in. Kuda says pulling for Rick. I'm with you there. Jose says if the XFL partners up with the NFL, I think the NFL wants the XFL to be their G League like the NBA. Lately, the NBA G League has been expanding, and it put a team in Mexico. I don't know if that was another. I didn't believe that the NFL's logo was behind there, and I was like, "Yo, she totally did that on purpose." And I was like, I don't know, man. And then I saw the logo, and I don't see the business sense for the NFL just yet. But that would be massive. And the AAF wanted to partner with the NFL. Going back to the Tom Dundon was like begging the NFL. It's like, well, if the NFL is not going to partner with us, I'm just going to close the door. So they had their opportunity. They could have rescued the AAF and done what they wanted to. I'm not really sure what the NFL, that the NFL and the XFL has in store for each other. Who knows? You got some heavy. Are you going to bet against Danny Garcia and The Rock and the people at Redbird Capital? However, their choice of who's going to run the show could be a interesting take. Now, could you imagine Oliver Luck or Jeffrey Pollock jumping ship to the USFL? Who the heck knows? I just need a team in the DC area. It's cool. But I'll also take Jacksonville as well as a team. So I'm cool with any of those things. So that's it for this week's show, my friends. We'll be back next week. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record your MP3 or video on your phone, and we'll play it on the show. So you can either call us, 888-430-7692, extension 3. I should put that on here. Or you can email us, or just record yourself on your phone and make a video on your phone. We'll play it on the show. There's no problem with that. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We will read it on the show. We got Stitcher. We're on Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Spotify, Google Podcast, and watch our show live every week at 8 p.m. Eastern. Before Monday Night Football. I bet you're all ready to check out Monday Night Football. I will as well. It should be a good game, I think. Buffalo is playing. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills. And remember to smash that like button, subscribe. If you like football, then like XFL Week in Review, because we cover everything. They got plenty of people that are covering the NFL, but you only got us and Markcast covering the USFL, Fan Control Football, and the XFL. And if you want CFL stuff, Markcast, or check out CFLNewsHub.com. Again, appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody for hanging out in the chat. Remember, we're live on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Let me see. Am I forgetting anything else? Make sure. So in Mike's article, question for next week: which of those 3 people do you think should get the job? That's a question for next week. I want to hear your reaction first. Get it in quick before this happens. I have a feeling we're going to find out before the end of the month, if not sooner, maybe even this week. Make sure to join us on the Discord as well. We keep the chat going there. And for show notes, xflnewshub.com/XFL-podcast. It has been 2 months without you and I hanging out together. I'm so excited to be back and hanging out with you guys. Thanks for listening. Mahalo. God bless. And I will see you all later.